Welcome to the test automation video in our FlexDeploy learning series. FlexDeploy provides a robust test automation framework which incorporates tests into the build, deploy, and release lifecycles. You can plug your existing tests into FlexDeploy and incorporate them into the deployment workflow or execute them standalone. And in either case, view and analyze the consolidated testing results in a centralized location, driving quality into the software delivery lifecycle. We will start by looking at the test types we have defined. Test types are a way to categorize tests into groups, defining their purpose. In this FlexDeploy repository, we have defined unit tests and smoke tests. We will see how test types tie into the test automation framework in just a few moments. Next, let's take a look at the HR/ADF app project. The Test Automation tab lets you define tests, group those tests into test sets, and allocate testing strategies. A strategy defines which type of test you want to run by environment and instance. The Test Sets tab allows you to create containers for tests by type. Here we have defined a test set called HR Unit Tests and identified the set as being of type Unit Tests. Now let's drill into this test set by either clicking on the link or selecting the row and clicking Edit. A test set contains a list of tests, or test definitions as they're called. Here we have created two test definitions within the test set. One test definition is to test the department's page and another to test the employee's page. Let's drill into the first test definition to have a closer look. Note that we have selected TestNG as the testing tool, and we will run this test on our Selenium instance, which is our Selenium testing server. Next, we need to select the test workflow, which will execute the actual tests. FlexDeploy provides out-of-the-box workflows for the supported testing tools. For TestNG, you will notice that there are two workflows. We will select to run the workflow TestNG tests versus test suites. Based on the workflow selected, you will need to provide values for the required properties. These property values are entered as Groovy expressions, which means you need to place quotes around literal values. For this workflow, we need to provide the package qualified test names along with the required class path. The Streams tab allows you to specify which development streams these tests are applicable for, and then optionally override the workflow and associated properties. The Qualifiers tab allows you to identify the criteria used to evaluate whether or not a test definition is deemed successful or not. Here we have indicated that the test definition execution should be deemed successful if at least 80% of its individual test cases are successful. Now click the back button to return to the list of test definitions within the test set. The Qualifiers tab on the test set allows you to identify the criteria used to evaluate whether or not the test set execution is deemed successful or not. Here we have indicated that the test set execution should be deemed successful if 80% of the test definitions are successful. Now let's return to the Execution tab and run the tests. Click the Run Test button, enter the environment, the instance, and the stream for which to run the tests. We will leave the other fields blank since we will rely on the testing strategy to determine which tests to run. Click Submit Request to run the tests. Just like with builds and deployments, you will see the execution of the test running within the project activity. Click on the execution ID of the request to see the workflow execution detail. Since the workflow is completed, we can click on the Test Results tab to view the results of our tests. We can see that one test set was executed and passed. Within the test set, two test definitions were executed and also passed. Let's click on the Employee Unit Test link to inspect the test case results for this test definition. We can see all of the test cases were successful except one. Clicking on the Qualifier tab, we can see that the qualifier passed because 80% of the test cases passed, even though there was one failure. In this video, we explored how to leverage your existing testing assets by organizing them within FlexDeploy and defining qualifiers to identify success criteria. We also exercised those tests and reviewing the testing results. In the next video within the FlexDeploy learning series, we will integrate these tests into the deployment process and explore how we can tie deployment success to the success of the test execution. We will also explore the statistics that are available to analyze the quality of the code being managed. Check out our complete set of videos in this FlexDeploy learning series.